6 stocks to buy and hold forever. Think decades in regards to these stocks. This is like when I die, put my shares in the grave. That's what we're talking about. These sorts of stocks in this video here today. And I thought it'd be a perfect day to do a video like this. And the reason being is the public account just hit $3 million. $3 million. Congratulations to everybody out there hitting all-time highs in your portfolios. It's amazing to see this number hit. I asked, I think I did a poll. It was on, I think it was X last year, on where people thought the portfolio was going to be at this time, this year. And a lot of people actually had thought it might get to 3 million. And those people were right. At that time, I thought, man, 3 million is a stretch. I don't know if we can get there, but we actually got there. Incredible, right? Now, the 6 stocks we're talking about here today, these 6 stocks have proven they can get through anything. And that's what you have to prove if you're going to be a type of stock you're going to hold for, let's say, decades or your entire life, right? You got to be able to get through any disruptions. You got to be able to fend off competitors. You got to be able to get through bad economic times, high inflation, low inflation, deflation. You got to be able to get through everything. And those are the sorts of companies we're going to be discussing today, that they get through everything. And when you look out 10, 20, 30, 40 years and you're like, that company's going to be just as relevant, if not a lot more relevant in the future than they are today, okay? So I hope you guys enjoy this one. I hope you get a ton of value out of this one. I appreciate y'all joining me. There's one thing, and there's one thing only I need from you guys, and it is for you to smash that like button. That is my payment for this video, okay? It's free to watch on YouTube. My only payment I ask is that a thumbs up. That's all I ask. Okay? I appreciate y'all joining me as always. If you want to subscribe to the channel, you can certainly hit that subscribe button down there. It's free to do so, and you can also be notified every time I drop a new video. You can mess around with all that in the YouTube settings if you want, okay? Alrighty, guys. So let's have some fun, okay? First stock of these 6 stocks to buy and hold forever is Nike. Nike is a buy and hold forever stock. It's one of the most misunderstood stocks in the market right now. As I'm recording this in December of 2024, it's a hated stock right now because it hasn't performed the last couple of years, right? And so people have kind of kicked this stock, forgotten about it. And I'm just telling you, you're missing an incredible opportunity here. This stock is up 43,000% since IPO. 43,000%. This is the definition of a buy and hold forever company, right? First off, they sell clothing related items, right? That's never being disrupted, at least as long as humans are still here, okay? I don't think we're ever going to just stop wearing clothing. And if we are, I think I'm going to Mars, okay? I think I'm out of here. So, yeah, the moral of the story is like clothing never gets disrupted. Now, Nike's had plenty of tough times in its business model and its history, right? Look at all these time periods when the stock was down significantly. This dates all the way back to the 1980s, right there, several time periods. In the 1990s, they had several vicious cycles in regards to their stock and their business model, right? In the 2000s, they had several time periods. In the 2010s, they've now had several periods, right? And the reason this happens sometimes the consumer's in a bad spot. You go through recessions. Like, if you're a company that's going to be a great company over a 50-year span, you're going to go through several recessions over that time, several high inflationary environments, certain time periods where the consumer's in a weak spot, certain times the economy's really weak, right? And also, you're going to have other hot brands sometimes that have the hotness in that little short-term time period, right? And Nike's gone through that for the last 50 years, where suddenly there'll be some brand that's like the hot brand at that particular time, and everybody's talking about it. And then a few years later, no one's wearing it, no one's talking about it anymore. And Nike just remains, and they get stronger and stronger and stronger as the years tick on. This company is just a one-of-one, very, very special company. If you're wondering, what makes this company so unbeatable? Like, how does it Nike just decade after decade just gets bigger and bigger and bigger? This is why. What you're looking at in front of you right there, that's an unbeatable moat. This is what Nike calls Nike demand creation expense. So think of this as Nike plowing money back into their business model so they can always remain the most relevant brand in athletics, right? And they do this by sponsoring athletes and having endorsements and sponsoring teams and leagues and all these sorts of things, right? And they spend billions and billions and billions of dollars on this every single year. Now, Nike could easily say, you know what, we're going to take that $4 billion and we're just going to keep it. We're not going to bother sponsoring anybody, but then you're going to destroy Nike's brand over time, right? And allow somebody to take that spot, right? Nike never allows somebody to take that spot. They will spend billions upon billions of dollars, and you just can't compete with that if you're any other brand. It's kind of similar to what Amazon and Jeff Bezos did over the years, where he just took a lot of the profits and most of the profits is just spend it right back in the business model, right? And Nike does that year in and year out. And so that's why they're unbeatable. And to kind of give you some real life reference in this, I remember as a little kid, I remember my mom used one of her favorite shirts that I always remember because it was a very catchy shirt. It was a Nike shirt, and it was a shirt and it said some sort of slogan like "I throw like a girl" or something like that, right? And I always remember that as a little kid, and I remember she'd even wear that shirt when we'd go up camping and stuff like that. And it's just fascinating to think about that as a little kid. And then in my garage, I don't know why my track spikes from college are randomly in the garage, but my track spikes from college are randomly in my garage, right? And guess what I wore? I had a choice to get any track spikes I wanted to get, right? Basically, we got sent down to a store when I was in college, and whatever type of track spike you wanted, it was paid for by the team, right? And what did I choose? Of course, I chose Nike. There's not even any other option, right? And then my kids, this is one of my son's running shoes. Like, what did I get him for running shoes? I got Nike, of course, right? What did I wear when I played football? I wore Nike football cleats, right? So my son, he plays quarterback. What did I get my son? Nike football cleats, right? I got my 1000X hoodie. What brand you think I'm going to get with it? Of course, I'm going to get Nike times 1000X, right? So this is how Nike remains generation after generation, decade after decade, so relevant, right? The parents wear it, then the kids wear it, then their kids wear it, then their kids wear it. And it's just they remain that brand decade after decade, generation after generation. And through tough times and other hot brands coming and going, like the other brands are the other brands. And I've just seen so many brands come and go that were seen as like, oh man, this is a competitive threat to Nike. And they always just fall off. They always fall off to the wayside. Now, check this out. What I'm showing you right now is revenue of Nike over time. And look at that. Isn't that incredible to look at Nike's revenue over time? Now, keep in mind, it wasn't all up in a straight line, although you might look at that chart and if you're just looking at it for a second, you might say it's just up in a straight line. No, they had several time periods when Nike's revenue went down. Right here, Nike's revenue went down. Right here, Nike's revenue went down. And these are supposed to be their high growth days back in the 80s and 90s. Nope. Revenue down. Revenue down. Look at this. Revenue down. Right there. Revenue down. Revenue down. Right? So Nike's had at least 5 or 6 years throughout its history where revenue's been down for the company. Right? And yet, every time after that revenue down streak, they come back stronger, bigger, and more competitive than they've ever come back, right? And they're kind of one of those companies that represents their athletes, right? Nike always wants to sponsor the best athletes in the world, whether it be Ronaldo, over the years, or Tiger Woods in his heyday, or Michael Jordan, whoever it was, the most dominant athletes that you just can't compete with, Kobe, LeBron, all those guys. And it's just Nike's that sort of company that they just come back and they fight back and they beat you again and again and again. And you just can't compete with these guys, right? Now, what's fascinating is you look at Nike's 10-year kind of track record here. And a lot of the weakness obviously has come in the last couple of years as far as the stock price goes. But this was a really bad 10-year span for Nike. The stock's up 79%, 10-year total return for Nike. That's bad. Bad for Nike. 79%, keep in mind. But look at consumer discretionary total return over the past 10 years. 57% negative. Negative. Hanes Brands, 59% negative 10-year price total return. VF Corp, another clothing company, 60% negative. Under Armour, 70% negative 10-year return. Allbirds, 98.6% negative 10-year total return, right? Allbirds was a very hot shoe brand a few years ago, and now it's looking like they might end up going bankrupt, right? So that goes to show you, like, in bad times and good times, whatever it is, like Nike always actually ends up emerging stronger and stronger and stronger, right? Throughout everything it goes through. And so that's why recently I have built Nike into a pretty dang good sized position in the public count. I bought 1,239 shares. And honestly, I'm buying every share in sight in regards to Nike. I'm going to keep buying every share in sight. This is one of those stocks you buy, you hold, you make your great dividend money, and likely a lot of great stock price gains in regards to this one over the future years, right? And it'll be a love stock again. Most of the time, Nike's a love stock in the market. Every once in a while, it's a hated stock. And that's the moment we're in right now. And then it'll become a love stock again, and everybody will look at it as, wow, Nike's up another 25% this year. Wow, Nike's up another 30% this year. And it's going to be that sort of story, right? Wow, it's so stable. That's Nike. Just do it. Number 2 of these 6 stocks you buy and you hold forever is Meta Platforms. So this is a company that so far returned, keep in mind they went public back in 2012. Their return so far since 2012 is up 1,359% for this company overall. Now, I got to take you back to when the company went IPO in 2012. So I was around back in those days, right? Investing in the market. And I actually bought Meta stock. It went IPO around $38, and I bought it when basically the price crashed down to like $18, $19, and I bought it at that level. And unfortunately, I made a little bit of quick money, and then I sold out. Bad decision in regards to that back in the day. But Meta back in those days, people were calling it the next MySpace. They're like, well, they knocked off MySpace. Who's to say somebody's not going to knock off them? And that was like the big thing back in 2012. They might be the next MySpace. Obviously, they were not the next MySpace, and they still, somehow to this day, going into 2025, they're still growing. It's insane, right? And then people were asking, like, how are they going to get money? So right from the go, people never understood this company. Right from the day they went IPO, they're like, oh, they're going to get disrupted. How are they going to make money? They never understood it. Then shortly after they went public, Zuckerberg makes a crazy acquisition. People were like going insane over this. Mark Zuckerberg bought Instagram without really asking the Facebook board of directors. And this was a huge deal because you got this 20-something kid who's, at that time, I think he was the youngest, richest person in the world, right? And they're like, is he insane? Like, this is so dumb. He spent $1 billion on some random app that people are sharing photos on. This is crazy, right? Now we look back at that going into 2025, and this was one of the most genius business acquisitions in the history of mankind, right? And the way he integrated that with Facebook back in that day, and those kind of fed off each other, was nothing short of historic, right? And if Instagram was a standalone company, my guess is that would be worth $150 to $250 billion just by itself nowadays, right? I think he knew what he was doing, but that was not really understood, right? You're gonna see a common thread with people don't understand what Zuckerberg is doing until the money comes in, and then they're like, oh my gosh, like that was genius. Like, how did we not see this? Is a common thread here. Same thing happened when he bought WhatsApp, which some people looked at as even a crazier deal. $19 billion for some service that people are messaging on. How are you even going to make money from that, right? And by the way, the money's just starting to pour in regards to WhatsApp. The big money's actually coming over this next 5 to 10 years in regards to WhatsApp and that opportunity. But people didn't understand that. They're like, I don't get it, right? And then they integrated messaging services into all their other apps. I mean, it was another brilliant acquisition by Zuckerberg, but people questioned it at the time, right? Then there's metaverse. People questioning this left and right over the last number of years. Like, I don't know about this. Like, who's doing this metaverse stuff? But I got to say, a lot of the youngins, they love it. A lot of the kids love these products, MetaQuest 3S. And it's clear as day, Meta is the leader in AR and VR, and they're so far above the next closest competitor, who I guess you could say is maybe Apple. It's unbelievable how far Meta's ahead of those guys in regards to what they have going on technology-wise, the price point they're at. It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous, right? Now, Meta's next thing that people don't understand right now is the Llama AI models, right? And if you're in the industry and you're in the know, you know, like Llama is like a dominant AI platform essentially at this point in time, right? Meta's next Llama AI models are training on GPU clusters bigger than anything else. Meta Llama has become the most dominant platform for building AI products. So once again, Zuckerberg's ahead of the trends. People don't understand what's going on. In 5 to 10 years from now, people will look back and be like, oh my gosh, like Meta built Llama, like that was so genius. How did we now see how much money they're going to make off this and how genius that was, right? So you have a common thread here. Now, this is very important in regards to Meta. And if you're talking about a stock that you want to hold for decades, this is huge. Zuckerberg, he's 40 years old. And honestly, he does not seem at all interested in sailing off in the sunset anytime soon. So you got literally a business genius, the most misunderstood business genius in history, maybe, who's leading this company for a long time to likely go in the future. I mean, that's a pretty darn good, company. I'll say that when you got a guy like that leading the show. By the way, I was kind of curious, so because I typed in Mark Zuckerberg age into Google, and I was like, let me just type in Jeremy Lefebvre age, and I just want to see what came up. And I found this down here, this called famous birthdays, right? So I click on this. And this is I laughed so hard when I read this, right? I looked down here and it said associated with. In 2019, Donald Trump posted a tweet that he watched one of his stock videos and that it was one of the best videos of the year. I'm like, what? Like, where did they get that from? Like, what are we talking about here? Who knew Trump was a big fan of the channel? Oh, man. I was cracking up as I read that. Come on, man. So, back to Meta. It's a huge position for me. It's $1 million plus. I feel very comfortable holding the stock. It's the big dog position in the public count, right? Public count now $3 million. $1 million of that $3 million is Meta stock, right? The gains are $841,000. They're now paying a dividend, which makes the stock even more attractive because now essentially every 3 months Meta is going to be paying out dividends. And guess what happens with Meta? Their profitability just keeps going up and up and up, and likely is going to keep going up for the next several decades, which means the dividend they're going to pay out is going to be bigger and bigger. I wouldn't be surprised if I hold all my shares I have in the public account right there. I wouldn't be surprised if 10 years from now, I'm making tens of thousands of dollars a year, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, just in dividend income per year from Meta stock. I would not be surprised at all because they're going to be able to up that dividend amount so substantially over this next decade. It's ridiculous. So the moral of the story is, yes, Meta, another one of those buy and hold stocks. Before we get into the third stock of the bunch, I want to just mention this because I know some of you guys would like access to my private stock group, my private wealth group, as well as 1000xstocks.com. So if you're looking for all my premium courses like Become a Master Stock Market, Millionaire Playbook, Stock Options Mastery, Dividend Investing Mastery, Financial Statements Mastery, all those courses, exclusive weekly videos from me, see the stocks I'm buying and selling in my now $3 million Fidelity account. And if you also want access to 1000xstocks.com, we can bundle all that together for you. So it's a one-stop shop, right? That will be pinned comment down there. Click on that, fill out a form. We'll see if we can get you access to all that. Probably, my guess is next week because the guys are very busy right now, okay? Alrighty, third stock of these 6 stocks. You buy, you hold, you take it to the grave. It is Cheesecake Factory. So this is a stock with a total return, well, not including dividends over time, which actually takes this return profile way up because Cheesecake Factory's paid a dividend for a long time. But this stock has performed tremendous over its history. It's up 1,394%, not accounting for all the dividends received. Now, one of the beautiful things about Cheesecake Factory is they've made it through everything. They made it through the great financial crisis and got stronger coming out of the great financial crisis, right? 10% unemployment. Then they had the worst thing that could ever happen to them happen, which was a once-in-a-100-year health event, right? That shut down the worldwide economy, that closed their restaurants for several months. And when the restaurants were allowed to be open again, guess what? They were like partially open. That was the worst. You would take a recession any day over Rona. So they made it through that, right? And then they got hit with probably the most vicious thing that the restaurant industry got hit with, honestly, outside of Rona, really in the past 30 or 40 years. And that was a crazy inflation wave, which wrecked so many restaurants. A lot of mom and pop restaurants went under, and a lot of the big dog restaurants got hurt substantially in that because their food costs went up dramatically in 2022 and wages went up dramatically. The two main things that usually go into running a restaurant, never mind rents and electricity and natural gas and all those sorts of things. So they made it through just 3 incredible situations really just in the past 20 years, right? Now, when it comes to cake, the beautiful thing about this business model, right, and why it's going to be so hard to disrupt them is they have an ATM, which is a Cheesecake Factory restaurant concept, right? They have multiple hit restaurants that you're going to see across every major city pretty much in the United States of America and probably several locations in North Italia and Flower Child over this next number of years. And then they have a bunch of other restaurants that look promising that are kind of in testing phase right now to see if those are the next big restaurants as well. People have to eat. People have to eat. And I will say people are probably lazier than they've ever been in regards to cooking. The laziest ever. Like, if we go back generations, like, let me take you back to, like, whoa, I don't know what the heck happened to my camera here. Like, why does my camera look all weird? That's strange. Anyways, I don't know why the camera's all weird. But if I take you back to, let's say, my grandparents, like, hardly ever went out on both sides of my family. My mom's parents and my dad's parents, like, if they went out, it was because of some special occasion or something like that. That was not commonplace, right? Then with my parents, it got a little bit more normal to go out to eat. When I was really young, we hardly ever went out to eat. It might be once, every 2 weeks, once a month, right? But then as I got older, like into high school, I noticed my parents would eat out probably once to twice a week, right? And I say I'd probably eat out even more than that between, lunches or dinners or Uber Eats or whatever, right? And so people got to eat, and people are lazier than ever as far as cooking goes, right? And also people like to go out. You can't disrupt that. Like it's humans. Like we like to go out, we like to do things, like it just is what it is, right? So that's that. So in regards to Cheesecake Factory, I built this one into a nice position in the public count, 2,222 shares, up $33,000, and the stock does not include dividends, which is a big factor in regards to Cheesecake. Cheesecake pays out delicious dividends. They just paid me this one recently, $599.94. And they pay that out every 3 months. And, the more shares I own, the more Cheesecake's going to go up on that dividend over the coming years, the more money it's going to funnel in. I'm sure I'll be making 5 figures plus a year in Cheesecake dividends a few years from now, right? As I build up more shares and they up that dividend. So Cheesecake, just a stock that is so well positioned for the next several decades. You got to hold that one, and you buy every share and you hold it and you hold it and hold it. Next one up here, number 4 of these 6 stocks is Amazon. Amazon. Oh, is this one? I mean, look at the return profile over time. 178,000% return. Amazon's one of the rare companies that's always a buy. It's always a buy. It's a buy today, it was a buy yesterday, it was a buy a month before, it was a buy a year before, it was a buy 10 years ago, 20 years ago. It's always a buy. Now, you got to understand what really makes Amazon have such an amazing moat around this business, right? I'll show you exactly where their moat actually is. It's on their balance sheet, actually, and it's this line item right here. Property and equipment. This is their real, true moat around their company. $237 billion in their latest quarterly numbers in property and equipment. Now, that is extremely important because you can't compete with that. You cannot compete with that. You cannot build out the infrastructure that Amazon has built out in regards to their e-commerce side of the business with the ridiculous amount of warehouses, and they just keep building them. The planes, the trucks, the delivery drivers, all that sort of stuff. You can't compete with that. You can't compete with them on the cloud side either. It's so costly to run a cloud the way Amazon does. And so it's just like, good luck just starting a business and being like, I'm going to go compete against Amazon. You just can't do that, right? So they built up an incredible moat around their business model over time. Now, if we kind of think about what are competitive threats to Amazon, so there's a company I own. It's my biggest position in my Patreon portfolio. Now, you got those of you guys that support me on Patreon. By the way, thank you to everybody that supports me on Patreon. If you ever want to join my Patreon, it's always in the description area down there. You get to see the stocks I'm buying and selling each week in that Patreon portfolio. But in my Patreon portfolio, Shopify is my biggest position, up 76% on that stock, right? But here's the thing with Shopify. They compete differently than Amazon. So although I love Shopify, it's my biggest position in the Patreon portfolio for a reason, it's not really that big of a direct competitive threat to Amazon because the use cases for Shopify are very different than the use cases for Amazon. You've got to understand that, right? Additionally, in regards to cloud market, Amazon Web Services, AWS, they usually are around 30% plus of market share in regards to cloud. The cloud just keeps building and it's just going to keep building for likely decades to go in the future, and AWS is still the best position for that. And so they'll likely continue to have about 30%-ish market share of the cloud market, right? Then if we think about retail, Costco, Walmart, I would say Amazon's much bigger competitive threat to Walmart and Costco than Costco and Walmart are to Amazon, right? Because Amazon still has the most convenient, they still have the most selection of these companies. So, I mean, if Amazon really wanted to take on Whole Foods, they own Whole Foods. If Amazon really wanted to take on Costco super hardcore, they could if they really wanted to, right? If they really wanted to go after that and really hurt Costco substantially, get all the same items that Costco has, right? And have them for around the same price, which Amazon could easily do that with how profitable they are, right? And instead of people having to go to the store, have it delivered to their house. Like, they could do that if they want. Like, they're fine playing their own game, right? But I'm just saying, like, Amazon's much more of a competitive threat to these companies, and these companies are a competitive threat to Amazon. So that's something to keep in mind there, right? Now, additionally, in regards to the ad market, because I don't know if you guys are aware, but Amazon's become a giant in the advertising industry. And they're starting to make substantial profits from advertising. Now, here's what we're looking at. This is what is expected trend over the coming years in regards to advertising over the next couple of years. And Amazon's expected to grab a bigger and bigger market share over this next few years of advertising to go from 12.5% last year to 17.3% of digital advertising revenue in 2026. So Amazon, dang, they're tough to compete with. I mean, my gosh, they're going to take a bigger and bigger share of commerce, of overall commerce, right? They're going to take a bigger and bigger share of advertising, and they're going to continue to pour in more and more money into the cloud business, right? Whew, brutal. So this is a stock I always look at and I'm like, I wish I owned more. I wish I owned more. I got 1,111 shares in the public account, and I just always am like, I wish I owned more of the stock, right? Yeah, there's no doubt. And this is about to become my 7th stock in the public account that's going to have 100% plus gain on it very shortly here. Stock's probably, my guess is probably 275 next year, 250 to 275 next year. But I mean, my gosh, like, could Amazon be a $10 trillion market cap someday? It's possible. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Amazon's a $10 trillion plus company. They're about to start doing, here in the next few years, they're going to actually reach $1 trillion plus of revenue. Like, that's a crazy number. That's almost a guarantee that in a few years from now, Amazon will be doing $1 trillion plus of revenue. Crazy, man. Crazy. So, yeah, Amazon's always a buy and hold forever. Next one up here, number 5 of these 6, is Wynn Resorts. This one is up 629% since it went IPO back around, when was that? I think it was around 04, 05, somewhere around there, right? This does not include all the dividends Wynn's paid out. I would say the total return for Wynn's probably 1,000% plus. If you added up all the dividends it's paid out over time and you reinvested the dividends into Wynn stock, right? No, for Wynn, here's the deal. It's been through a vicious last number of years. They went through the great financial crisis, made it out, and emerged stronger than ever, right? Macau crackdown was a huge negative thing. There was a lot of shady stuff going on in Macau for a while, and then Xi Jinping, the president, cracked down hard on Macau, and that hurt anybody that did business in Macau, which is obviously Wynn Resorts. Then Steve Wynn got ousted from the company during the Me Too movement, right? The legendary Steve Wynn got ousted, and then you had Rona, and so the resorts were shut down around the world. Like, that's crazy. Like, travel was completely shut down, right? So it's been through a lot, and look at, even despite all of that crap, even despite all that insanity, the company made it out. And I would say Wynn Resorts is a stronger company today than it's ever been in its history, despite going through all that crap. And that's what makes all these companies I'm sharing with you here today phenomenal long-term hold companies that you can think about holding for decades and decades and decades, right? Now, when it comes to Wynn's business model, it's very diversified. They have their Wynn properties, which, keep in mind, it's not like they just build resorts to build resorts, right? They're just another hotel. They build resorts in the markets you want to be in that are huge travel destinations. Additionally, they build the highest of the high-end gaming resorts. So when you go to stay at a Wynn Resorts, you might pay $400 a night for a room, a beautiful room, might I say, but you're likely going to spend another $100 to $200 a day on food because all the expensive, high-end, beautiful restaurants they have there. You're probably going to game a little bit and maybe spend $500, $1,000, several $1,000s, $10,000. Like, if you're a whale, you're going to be going through. You're going to be gambling through millions of dollars in a night if you're a whale, which is what Wynn attracts. It attracts the highest end clientele. That's why you always see the biggest name celebrities at Wynn. You always see high net worth individuals at Wynn. If you ever want to run into people with 9-figure, 10-figure net worths, you're going to go to the Wynn. You're not going to go to Caesar's Palace for that, essentially, okay? And so, no disrespect to Caesar's Palace, okay? I'm just saying. So Vegas properties, they have their old Macau properties. They have their Boston property, right? Which they still operate. They don't own the land underneath, but they actually still operate that property. And then they have their Wynn Palace property, which on the Cotai Strip of Macau. And then they're building a Middle East property right now, which should just be crazy. And so, I mean, there's so much money in the Middle East, and there's been such a need for a property like this for a long time that's going to be crazy, right? And people want to travel. Like, the only thing that can disrupt travel over time is when you have one of those once in 100-year health events. But outside of that, like, you can't disrupt travel. People want to go places. You know, it's one life to live. People want to go places. They want to do things. They want to go to Vegas. They want to go to Macau. They want to go to Boston. They want to go to the Middle East, right? That's what it is. And so they got a very diverse high-end business. Now, I think I've spoke about Wynn extensively more here in this video. I don't know if you guys saw this one, 6 stocks to buy now, November 2024 edition. So if you never got to check out that particular video, you might want to do so. Additionally, just so you guys are aware, I came out with this video here about a day ago. 5 stocks I'm buying now, December 2024 edition. So if you guys didn't get to check out that one, it looks like 88,000 people have seen it so far. But if you didn't get to check out that one, you want to know the stocks I'm buying right now, you can check out that. Additionally, I want to draw your guys' attention to this because people Love this video. Every time I shout this out, I see a bunch of people go watch it, and then they have the best things to say. They say it's the best video they watched the entire year. If you ever see this thumbnail, click on it. If you got 52 minutes on your hands, click on it. 16 years of stock market advice in 52 minutes. Every time I shout that video out, a bunch of people go watch it, and they say, like, that was the best video I've watched on YouTube. That was the most helpful video I watched on YouTube all year, if not ever. So, moral of the story is make sure you definitely check out that one if you ever have an opportunity. Alrighty, guys, last stock up here, number 6 of these 6 stocks, buy and hold forever, is Tesla Tesla Tesla, very special company. You know, up 28,000% since IPO. Listen, there's a reason I call my house the house Tesla built. I was able to take so many incredible profits out of Tesla over the years. It's ridiculous. Like, incredible stock for me. With that being said, even with the insane profits I was able to take out of this stock over the last number of years, you notice I never sell out of Tesla completely. I always leave a good chunk. And so although I sold, by far and away the majority of my Tesla shares because the valuation has gotten so rich, I still refuse to sell it all. I still hold $357,000 worth of stock in the public account. It's still a position I hold in the Patreon portfolio. I can never sell out of this one completely because at the end of the day, they just stay, even though the company, you can make an argument that it might be overvalued and those sorts of things, it's still one of those companies you gotta hold shares in because this is a company that's in the forefront of technology when it comes to self-driving, when it comes to electric vehicles, when it comes to energy storage, batteries. Like, they just keep pushing the pedal to the metal. They got one of the most insane engineering teams you're ever going to know. Like, I've been fortunate to know some of these engineers at Tesla over the years, and I just tell you, they're all brilliant. They're all brilliant, like unbelievable folks. And so it's very hard to compete with them. Elon Musk, I mean, he's got a lot on his plate, and I'm sure if he just dedicated himself to Tesla, I'm sure Tesla would be even further along than where it's at. But, it's unfortunate, but he has a lot of other priorities as well, right? So that is just something to keep in mind here. But the moral of the story is I would still rather have him be a CEO of the company, even if he's not fully engaged because he's doing other companies than not. And so it's one of those stocks you just always got to hold shares of. Like, if you can make a bunch of money and you want to take some profits, cool. But this is just one you never sell out of completely. You can never sell this one complete. You always got to hold shares, man. But Tesla's a very, very special company, and it's a very special stock, obviously, right? Okay, guys, appreciate you joining me as always. Hope you enjoyed today's video. If you want access to my entire library of premium courses, as well as access to my exclusive Discord chat, see the stocks I'm buying and selling each week, access to 1000xstocks.com bundled in. If you want access to all that, pin comment down there, fill out a form. We'll see if we can get you access to all that, maybe either this weekend or maybe next week, okay? Much love and have a great day.